Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show with back by popular demand. The one, the only, the branthopist herself, Yolanda M. Smith. What's up, Yolanda?
Hey, darling, how are you? Yep, I breezed on in here.
You was late.
Hey, you didn't have to tell them all. Listen,
I think out of everybody in here, the only one that was on time was Pete Lee. That was the only one. So what does that say about you?
It says that I'm busy. That's what it says.
No,
but guess what? I'm here and I'm gonna be here all day with you. So you got to get ready because you're gonna be careful what you ask for now.
Let me ask you a question before we start this show.
Absolutely.
You saw the fight. What do you think about it?
Ass out.
Who was you going for? Was you going for Mike Tyson? Who was you going for?
You know what? I was going for the money because I already knew it was ridiculous and I knew it was set up and it just didn't make any sense to me. But he does have some nice buns, I would say.
Let's ask the panel real quick. The one, the only, the man himself, the owner of the world famous Good Spot family owned restaurant, Indianapolis, Indiana. The one, the only, Omar. Omar, what do you think about the fight?
Man, it was pretty sad. Pretty sad. It made me feel old.
What do you mean when you say made you feel pretty?
I think I was looking for Mike to come out there and knock him out first 5-6 seconds. You know what I mean? I felt like he's at that age where I'm at that age. I felt like if he can do it, hey, I might get out there and still do something myself. You know, no boxing, but something else. You know, like get out there and run a marathon or something. But I wanted him to really come there and just kind of lay old Jake Paul out and Jake Paul. Right?
So it was more personal for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was sad. I mean, the election now, I don't know what's next.
Lord have mercy. Let's go to my man, Mr. Pete Lee, owner of the world famous Popcorn World. What do you think about the fight, Pete?
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, I knew it was a setup from the beginning. Listen, no way a seasoned fighter. I don't care how old he is. Boxer's a guy who just walks in 2-minute rounds. We know our rounds is 3 to 4 minutes. I boxed for years. Golden Gloves, Silver Gloves, Golden Gloves, Ernie Terrell, Alfonso Ratliff, you name her, Anthony Sims. You probably know Anthony Sims. No, man, that was.
So you smell shit already before it happened.
The contract was set up that if he knocks him out, he gets no money.
Oh.
And the only way for him to get the money he had to actually extend the fight. If you know as a professional fighter, he could have stepped in a few times and ended this whole fight. Mike stayed away. Mike threw only 90-something punches. And you see him in training, Mike's throwing punches all day, every second. So he wasn't himself.
Right.
He just Mike about the money. He's smart.
Joey.
He's learned.
Joey, what do you think about Joey, Mr. Comedian himself, engineer building Honda car line? Man, that's crazy. Now I'm professional comedian. Did you think it was funny with that fight?
I guess depends on your perspective. If you were for the one or the other, I was hoping for like a Rocky-esque type thing. Like here's
that's because you were Italian. That's because
here's the older boxer coming back and just beating the young guy. I was hoping for that. Okay. But as I said, I saw where he actually was setting up, his signature knockout punch, but didn't throw it. So it made me wonder. I don't think he's lost it. I think, it's about the money. Follow the money.
Follow the money. Now, let me tell you what this show is about. Everybody had their opinion on that fight. I have my opinion. I simply think it was about money. It was about this is what I tell people as a former athlete myself. You have to know when it's time to retire. If you live by the cheers, you die by the booze. Plain and simple.
I like that.
That sounded good as hell, didn't it? Do I need to say it again? If
you
live
say it again.
Cheers, you die by the booze. I refused to die by the booze. So
Bumper
I left
sticker.
out. I left out with the cheers.
Sounds like a bumper sticker.
But let me tell you about today's show. I'm blessed. We're blessed because this young man has definitely changed the game of the fight game, from mixed MMA fighting to regular fighting to something I've never really heard of. Well, let me say I never, because we talked off the camera. Bare knuckle fighting. Now that's some shit you don't really hear. Bare knuckle fighting.
That's called street fighting from where I come from.
Thank you. I'm not. I
mean,
should be the champ. Champ.
That's street fighting.
Hood fight. But today we have the world famous, the world champion himself. We're gonna go down his journey on how he became the world bare knuckle champion. I'd like to welcome to the show the one, the only, Mr. Brian Maxwell. Welcome to the show, big guy.
Hey, Brian.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Appreciate you for having me.
You know, before we get started, V, tell the viewers a little bit about your background and where you come from before we get into some questions and answers about your career.
First of all, I'm from Franklin County, Virginia, aka the moonshine capital of the world, as they say. I was born and raised there. I didn't have the best life there, but I pushed through and didn't become a statistic or become a stereotype of being from there. And I eventually got away from there and went on to do bigger and better things. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Well, the first male in my family to go to college. I went to the University of West Virginia Tech, go Golden Bears, to wrestle on a scholarship. And then once I was done there, I decided to finally do something with my sports career and seek out being an MMA fighter instead of, leaving college and trying to chase wrestling. I decided to chase a fight dream, and here we are today.
Let me ask you a question. I'm familiar with your neck of the woods.
I'm not. What's that?
Have you heard the movie Lawlessness? Lawless? Is that what it is? Lawless?
Yeah, it's called Lawless.
You never seen that?
No.
Yeah, it's where he grew up.
Okay, so close to what? Give me some perspective here.
Let me put it like this. Have you seen the movie Rosewood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I've answered the question.
All right.
you grew up you grew up with these conditions in this town in Virginia. I know about it. I saw the movie. I'm familiar with Fredericksburg. I've been to your side of the town. What were the statistics of you coming out of there unscathed?
One, it's probably one of the, I say, top 5 most racist place in the whole state. 2, not many athletes where I come from get a chance to, chase their dream. And 3, growing up in the part that I grew up in, man, it's, I'm not gonna say it's sad, but when you're growing up in those kind of conditions and seeing the stuff that I've seen throughout life, you're gonna end up like a lot of people around from where I'm from, either going to jail, on drugs, or just staying stagnant and staying put where you're at, man. And me being who I am, even from an early age, I've always been that hard-headed kid that, of course, I got into trouble. Mm-hmm. I had authority issues until, a certain age. And I was always the kid that wanted to see more of the world than what I was seeing at home and in my neighborhood and my surroundings. I've always been the kind of person that wanted to go leave, basically. You feel what I'm saying? And, I told my mom at like 10 years old that one day that I'm going to leave here and do something to make her proud. And I was going to not end up like most of the athletes that were way, way, way better than me and not chase my dream of being a professional athlete. And here we are now, and I'm a professional athlete. You know, I've made my mom proud. That was my number one goal as a kid, was making my mom proud after all the stuff that I put her through.
B, where was you mentioned your mom. Where was your father? Did you have a father figure in your life growing up?
Yes, my father was here and there because he done his time in and out of prison for a while. And then when I was around about 13 years old, he got out of prison for the last time, and he's been out ever since I was 13. And, you know, me and my father's relationship has been rocky, I should say. He's been there, but he hasn't been there at the same point in time in the most important times of my life that I needed him. And, you know, like I said, me and my father, you know, we had a rocky relationship, and, you know, I talk to him almost 2, 3 times a week, but, you know, I still kind of, let's just say, kind of hold a burden a little bit, just a tad, of him not being there in my important years of growing up and learning something. But, you know, I commend my stepfather. He's the one of 5 people that taught me that if you want something, you got to go get it. You know, I can give you the formula. It just depends on if you use it or not. And, you know, I say I got my work ethic from my stepfather, because I also, once my mom and stepfather got married, we moved to a farm. And so, yeah, I was about that farm life, super deep in the country. So, yeah, getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, having to feed the cows and the horses, and, you know, going out in the field to help bale hay or help fill the barn up with hay and stuff. And, you know, then after that, you know, get ready for school. And, you know, since I played sports, sometimes I would have to do 2-a-days in sports. So I do farm stuff in the morning, then get ready, go to school, or get ready to go to either football practice or wrestling practice early, and then go to school. And, you know, man, it's been a long ride and a long journey.
Hey, B, was there ever any moments of self-doubt? Let's get real. You're young. You're basically you're put in a situation where the word hopelessness is always elevated more so than success. What were some of the moments of your life that you, and I've done it too, that you just said, is this really worth it?
Um, my first moment like that ever was when I was like 12 years old. You know, I was going through some things, and, you know, I had to end up going to counseling at the age of 12, one for anger management and one for stress management, because that was the last, at the age of 12, that was, my dad had one more year left of jail. And before that, hadn't talked to my dad in like a year. So that was probably like the worst year of my life, because I couldn't talk to him on the phone or anything, because he was that last year before he got out, you know. So I guess something happened, and I guess him and my mother had a falling out. So I didn't talk to my dad for a year. And that year I was just out of control. I was getting in trouble in school. I got kicked out twice. I was facing expulsion and happened to repeat a grade. I was just bad, man. I was just getting in unnecessary trouble, and I would come home. You know, I'd come home, rip up my homework papers, you know, and just leave the house and, you know, go roam the streets with my friends and stuff like that. And, you know, I say that was the first moment I felt like self-doubt, because I was going through that, as they say, the puberty stage also, of turning from a 12-year-old boy to a 13-year-old teenager. And another one is when I was in high school. I was in like 10th grade, and, you know, I'm starting to come into myself, you know, as an athlete. And like I said, in 10th grade, I started to peak athletically, and I took a loss in a wrestling match that I still feel to this day that I shouldn't have took. I embarrassed myself after I had lost the match. I threw my headgear at my opponent, cussed at my coach. I went in the locker room, tore up the locker room, and of course, in doing all of that, my mom was literally 2 steps behind me and yanked me up. And I was like, I had self-doubt about that because, like I said, I was undefeated till that point. I felt like I shouldn't have lost that match. And I was at that point to where, like I said, I'm starting to peak at with my athletic ability.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Is this even worth it? And then, after my mom yanked me up and said what she had to say, my coach came right back in after her. And, we had our conversation and he let me know. He said, Brian, you are Brian fucking Maxwell. This is what you do. This is what you're good at. Don't have no self-doubt. He uplifted me that day. And after that day, it was just like smooth sailing. And
Mhm.
the next one happened literally like 5 years ago. One of my brothers, well, actually, I had two brothers pass away in a time period of 6 months within each other.
Wow.
One was murdered, and one died from some other things. And I was at the period of time. It was right. It was just at a period of time where fighting. I was making a transition of leaving the amateur fight scene to being a professional athlete, and it just losing both my brothers that passed away. I was super close with one that was like, if you see me, you seen him.
Mhm.
And then my other brother, he had just got out of prison literally like a year before that. He was on the right path to making everything great for himself. He bought a piece of land, he bought a house, he bought multiple cars. He even bought his own garage because he always been into motorcycles and dirt bikes and four wheelers. So he was starting a dirt bike, four wheeler, and motorcycle shop. And then he got killed. So that put me in a bad space mentally because two people that I talked to really the most out of all my other friends and stuff put me in a bad mental space. And I got, like I said, at that point, I got to thinking, is everything that I'm doing worth it? And, thank goodness for the people around me. Several people talked to me and let me know that, everything's going to be okay. You mourn how you mourn. And, I say it's by faith that everything that has came with me to bare knuckle was the faith and the look of one of my brothers, because my one brother, like I said, that died due to some other problems, was one of my brothers that was my hype man. He was like I said, my hype man. He hyped me up for everything. He was at almost every fight that he could make it to, and he was always with me to hype me up and put me in that mode. You feel what I'm saying? So, but after a while, I got over it. And I'm good, and we're here now. You feel what I'm saying?
So I'm curious. Given all this that you've been through, and then we're gonna get to the knuckle thing because I need to know about that. But give
Why
it.
do you need to know about the knuckle thing?
I'm curious. I'm curious. But given all this, where you are today, what would you tell your younger self?
Where I'm at today, I would tell my younger self, just like I tell my son and anybody that's here in the gym with me, or even some of the guys that I work around that are having, bad moments. Keep your head up, keep striving. And I got this saying, pardon my language, I got this saying of I always tell guys to put that shit in a box, shake it up, and throw that shit out the window. That's like my favorite thing to say, and keep it moving, and let's progress. Words of positivity, positive vibes, positive energy, and let's keep it moving because we got bigger and better things to do out here.
Amazing.
You guys got any questions? Because they're awful quiet to be guys.
Yeah, I had a question. A lot of times
Yes, sir.
when people go through things, when things are good, it's great, but you don't learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When you go through
Mm-hmm.
failures or problems, that's when you really learn something new. Were there any examples like that in some of these situations you were in that in the end you learned something out of it, how to deal with
Yes,
it?
man. Yes, sir. Through every situation, whether it was good or bad, I take everything as a lesson to progress and to get better at. You feel what I'm saying? And my thing with me, and like I said, I teach my son the same thing. If you fail, you got to keep trying because it'll get better at the end of the day. Because, like I tell him all the time, I failed and I've gotten better and better and better. And even though I lived the life that I grew up living, I'm trying to make it better for you so you don't see the same stuff and see the same failures and see all the craziness that I've seen as a kid. I'm making it better for you so you don't have to go through what I've been through. So if you think you're failing, just look at what your dad went through and let's progress. Talk to me about it. I'm just trying to teach him how to be a man, and also I'm still growing as a man and progressing too. So yeah.
Let's move forward so I can get these guys. I know what they want to talk about. They want to talk about these knockouts. So let's move forward a little bit. You start a new trajectory in life. You get into the sports, you realize that you found something that you're good at. When did you decide to actually start exploring the fight game?
Um, Man, look, I've always been a fighter by heart. I wasn't always the biggest kid in my neighborhood or the biggest kid on my football team or my wrestling team or my track team.
Mhm.
I've always been little and I've always been fiery. And my thing has always been, I'm not gonna take nothing from nobody. So if you want to fight, we can fight. Um, but wrestling kind of started that. I've been around wrestling my whole life. But I didn't actually get to start wrestling until I was 13 years old. And, it got me all the way to college. And in college, you know, one of my roommates was a big UFC fan. And like I said before, I never really knew what UFC was until I actually watched it.
Mhm.
And it kind of sparked my interest. And Anderson the Spider Silva was the very first fighter I ever seen in my life. And you know that kind of interested me, and that started my interest. I started looking stuff up on the that's when YouTube started getting a little popular, and
Mhm.
I started looking up stuff on YouTube. And I told myself, when I'm done with college and I leave here, I think this is what I want to do, because me being who I was at that point in time, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going to wrestle in college, and after college, I'm going to wrestle internationally and go to the WWE. And then I had to come to a realization that's not going to happen quickly. So
Right.
let's sit back, revamp, and think about something else. And I was like, I'm super interested in fighting. And after college for 2 years, I lived my life, and then I found out about my son was on the way, and I was like, I think it's about that time for me to do something to give my son a role model and
Mhm.
to show him that, you know, give him somebody to look up to. And I was like, it's about that time to get this fight thing going.
What was your first fight like? When you first you said this is what you're gonna do. Now you got to put the action in the thought and the action into motion. What was your first fight like, and what was that? What walk me through that?
My first fight was literally me going on the internet and looking stuff up about fights and trying to find a gym. And one of my old high school teammates actually was a fighter before I was, and he fought for a promotion. So I decided to look them up.
Mhm.
And upon looking them up, I seen they had a fight coming up within 2 months. So me being me, I was like, click, let's sign up for it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody would contact me, but literally within an hour of me signing up and giving them my information and giving them my phone number, the promoter called me. I'm the person, I do not answer phone numbers that aren't saved in my phone. If I don't know whose number it is, I'm not answering. So by chance, I just answered it, and he let me know, hey, this is Mr. Smith calling from Ruckus in the Cage. I want to let you know that we've accepted you into our promotion, and I want to offer you a fight. I'm silently, low key, just jumping all around, like, yes. And after talking to him, I literally hung up the phone and literally called like 5 of my friends and told them, hey, yo, look, this fight thing is about to happen. And after that, it was grind time. I decided, like I said, I was looking up gyms. I messaged a few gyms on Facebook, and MySpace was still popular at the time. So I messaged people on my MySpace trying to find a gym. And it was kind of a let down at first because I had a couple gyms in the area tell me, hey, we don't, even though we are a martial arts school, we don't train fighters for this amount of time before you have a fight, because it was 2 months until the fight.
Right.
So that's a total of literally, basically eight weeks before the fight. And one gym told me we're going to have to train you for 6 months before we give you a fight.
Right.
And me being me, I'm like, nah, I'm not having that. So I decided to start, working on my wrestling skills and getting back in shape and going to Planet Fitness. And, just one night I happened to be in Planet Fitness late night, and, I seen a guy with MMA shorts on and a hoodie with sponsors on it. I guess I was judging a book by its cover, and I was like, he's got MMA gear on. Let me just walk up to him and talk to him and see what's up. And by chance, I walked up to him and introduced myself. He introduced himself and was like, hey, I'm thinking about, I'm a pro fighter. I'm thinking about starting my own MMA gym. Let's keep in contact. So, moving forward, a week later, I met up with him at a boxing gym, a famous boxing gym around here called Melrose Champs Boxing Gym in this area. And I started then, and the grind was hard. Like everything that he put me through. Being a wrestler, of course, I've been through hard training,
Right.
but being put through a boxing training and doing my wrestling at the same time, that was new to me. So it was hard. And a few of those times, to be quite honest, I never quit anything in my life, but I wanted to quit several times because that shit was hard. And that first fight, I ain't gonna lie, I fought in a cow auction barn, and Ken Shamrock just happened to be at my very first fight.
Really?
And I got walking out to that cage for the first time. One, I was pouring in sweat because I was nervous. Two, this was new to me. And three, I was in my opponent's territory, and I got booed from my start of my walk to the end of my walk. But luckily, I got in there and knocked him out in 25 seconds and got my ass up out of there.
Smart.
But you know what? This is what's powerful to me. So what I see though is somebody with resilience, somebody that is not scared, right? You may be scared, but you're going to do it scared, because think about it. 8 weeks before a fight, you hadn't even been training. Come on, dude. Let's be honest. I mean,
No, not at all.
The average person would have been like, heck no. You know what I mean?
And look at Pete. He's a former boxer, so Pete was like, I know what he just went through.
I mean,
Yeah.
amazing, because I can only imagine knocking that guy out, what that did for your confidence. And after that, it probably was on and popping.
Man, I'm telling you, after I knocked him out in 25 seconds in front of his people, and then, walking out that cage, and Ken Shamrock, one of my grandma's favorite wrestlers, shook my hand. Oh man,
you're
that sent me through. Man, that sent me through the roof. I called everybody I knew after that fight. Once my adrenaline calmed down, it was like, look, I won. It's game time. Like, and even when I got back, because where I fought at was 2.5 hours away from where I live. And man, as soon as I got back into town, I was trying to find any one of my friends so I could celebrate. And man, it was a different feeling, man. I went from here to here, and I went from 0 to 100 real quick after that, and
so
I was hooked.
So B, you said you got out of there pretty quick. Why didn't you stay there to enjoy? Because you thought maybe the crowd would come after you and jump on you.
Nah, man, like I finished watching a couple fights, and
Yeah.
then me not being knowing people in the
Right.
fight
Right.
community yet, or experiencing being at fights. I
Right.
was like, I need to just get up out of here because yeah. But I got up out of there. I mean, I wasn't worried about the crowd. I mean, where
Okay.
I'm from, it don't matter who anybody is. If you got to fight one person or you got to fight five, you got to do it, man. Like
So,
yeah.
so after you knocked him out within 25 seconds, how does that plummet your career? Is this an amateur level fight, or
Yeah.
this had to be amateur? So how did it take you all the way to the pro circuit?
Yeah, it was my first amateur fight. And then after that, like it was like a blessing in disguise, man. Like I don't know how these promoters found me or even knew that I knocked this guy out within 25 seconds, but literally within I say 3 to 4 days, I had 5 different promoters messaging me about fighting, and I was like, oh man, this is weird. This is happening a little fast, and
Right.
I end up scheduling my second fight literally 3 weeks later in a town like about an hour away from me. I went there and I faced adversity for the first time in a long time. I was beating this guy up. I dropped him within 15 seconds, and I learned something new that night. There's a thing called jujitsu, not something that I did not know about. So
Mm.
I'm beating this guy up, ground and pounding him. And then all of a sudden, he takes my back and chokes me out. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I've never been choked before. So, of course, I swallowed my pride for a second and I tapped because I didn't know what was going on. So I learned a lesson. Like I said, I learned a lesson that night and about something new called jiu-jitsu. So after that, I got it in my head. I got to learn this. And literally, while starting to learn this, I took my third fight within another 2 weeks. So I fought again 2 weeks later after that second fight, and I end up winning that fight. No, I actually lost that fight because doing that within that 2 weeks, of course, I was training,
Mhm.
and like I said, it's a new experience for me, and I got to the point to where I was doing it so much without resting, which I should have knew to rest. My body shut down on me, and I was like, I'm still going to take this fight. I don't care. My body shut down on me. I got to get the experience.
Right.
So I took the fight, and I ended up losing that fight. I got caught that night for the first time. I've never been dropped before a day in my life, but after that, I went on a 6 fight win streak,
Wow.
and within that 6 fight win streak, I won 3 amateur titles within that 6 fight win streak. And then after that, man, like the confidence level, the training level, I'm starting to learn more and
Right.
more. I'm starting to meet people within the fight community because, like I said before,
Mhm.
it was just me and my coach and very few people, pardon me, that he brought around me. So starting to meet the guys in the fight community. Guys are starting to ask me who I am and where I'm from, and hey, where do you train at? So I'm starting to build relationships with local guys that I didn't even know that were in this area that fought. And once I got by the end of my amateur career,
Mhm.
I became a seven-time MMA amateur champion. So, like I said, by the time I got to my amateur career, I got to a point where guys would see that part of my resume and back out of fights and not want to fight me.
Mhm.
And so I literally took a year and a half off from fighting
Uh-huh.
because I couldn't get a fight because guys wouldn't fight me. So during that year and a half, I decided to take it to the next level to become a pro athlete. I did all my studying on the business side
Mhm.
and, on the side of course, training religiously. I started training even more then, actually, and decided to go ahead and make that jump. And within that jump, in that year and a half, a promotion came to my city and was like, we can give you a professional debut, and I was locked in after that, and here we are today.
Who was your? This is a two-part question. This is a two-part question. Who was the first opponent that you had to deal with on the pro circuit? And the second part of that question is how much more, and Lee can answer this, how much more technology that you have to add into your regiment to be effective, because now you're going into the pro section. You realize here's the new encounter of jujitsu. When you look at MMA, they're bringing all kind of stuff, even aerial acrobatics is now involved in it. You know what I'm saying, Lee? Because you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah.
Well, no, first I just want to commend you. We've had that same struggle out of the streets of Chicago. I remember practicing football, basketball, and baseball, still going to boxing. And I actually had to jog to get there. Ernie Terrell was my manager. Didi was my trainer. Mr. Wood and Didi was my coach. You get all those coaches. And Alfonso Ratliff was the champion at the time. I remember going through those things. And I know it's very hard, but I just tell you this, what we went through made us resilient. And then we don't want people to go through things. Sometimes God allow you to experience some things to help somebody else not go through those things. But then you also notice how hard-headed you were that other people were, because you're telling them, but they're still going through it. I also have a son now who just signed with West Point. He's one of the number one running backs in the country, in the state, but I used to teach him jiu-jitsu and Hapkido. I studied with Torres. Torres was an MMA champion for a few years, and I literally started teaching him how to box in his dojo, because he would go ahead first, and I knew it was going to be a problem, and the Japanese guys knocked him out doing that same thing, and Paul Bono would come there as well. So I just want to, first of all, I know that regimen is hard, but look how it pays off.
Yes, super hard.
It pays
off. And that's one thing I try to teach my son, because now my son, throughout this journey, my son was literally in the gym with me since he was 2 days old. So imagine being a new father, having a son that's literally a couple days old in the gym with you, and you're starting your journey. This is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but I've stuck to the grind, and now my son is an athlete. He wrestles. He's a pretty darn good wrestler. He's ranked 5th in our state right now as a wrestler. He's also, I think he's ranked, I have to go back and look, but I think he's also ranked as a middle schooler nationally. And this year was his first year of playing football, and he did. I'm going to hype him up. I'm glad he's not in here in the gym with me right now, because he'd probably be going nuts and probably smack me in the back of my head and run because I'm hyping him up. But for his first year of playing football, he done very, very well. The coaches couldn't believe this was his very first year of playing football. That's how good he done, and I'm super proud of that.
So real quick, but we have to wrap up. What was that first professional fight like for you? Because, like I said, now you're bringing all the fighting skills, and something that's very unique, and a lot of people need to realize this. You're bare knuckle, total different style of fighting. Now you're getting into the pro, your first pro fight. What was that like for you? And who was your opponent?
My first pro fight was actually an MMA fight, and I fought a guy named Abdul Ali, and we're actually real good friends now. And of course, I was nervous. I was in my hometown, and I had to cut a lot of weight because I walk around at 200 pounds. And within that time, I couldn't get any fights between 185 or 285 because nobody would fight me, because I'm coming off of what I'm coming off of, being an amateur champion, and I couldn't get a fight nowhere. And in order to get my first professional fight, I had to cut to 170. And I haven't been 170 pounds since I was in college. So I had to make that weight cut and prepare for that fight at the same time. It was super hard, but I did it. I ended up losing my professional debut because I dislocated my kneecap twice in the fight. And the first time the doctor popped the sideline doctor popped it back in, and the second time it just went completely out, and I couldn't continue. But throughout my professional journey, doing MMA, I was actually being looked at by the PFL, the Professional Fighters League. But bare knuckle happened to start about the time that the PFL was looking at me to recruit me to bring into the PFL. So one of my training partners actually got contacted by bare knuckle to fight for them, and me and him trained for the fight, and I went to their bare knuckle second event, and at that point, the fight's all about him. I'm not about taking nobody's shine at all. That is not me. I can create my own shine. I got my own shine, and I'm not taking nobody else's shine around me. So we did that, and that night that he fought bare knuckle actually offered me a fight because I was super interested. I wanted to do that, and I wanted to try something new to add to my combat sports, resume. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't take the fight that night. I take a fight that night because it's all about my teammate. So about 6 months later, they had tryouts. And this is the part where I told you, I think it was my brother that had my back and was with me. My brother is a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I'm a Washington Commanders fan. I do not like the Eagles, but bare knuckle was holding tryouts in Philly, and I was like, oh man, I hate Philly. But like I said, this is the point where I think my brother was on my back, and something told me, just go. Here's your chance. Mm-hmm. So I went to the Philly tryouts. I did what I needed to do. And, after the tryouts was over, they pulled me to the side, and I was one of the people selected from the tryout to sign with them. But I needed to handle a few things after that. I needed another professional win. Since it was still a new sport, I needed another professional win. I actually got 2 more professional wins. And after my second professional win, one of the matchmakers / recruiters from bare knuckle surprised me at that fight and offered me a contract that night at my second win after that second win that I got, because I try to be an overachiever. So instead of 1 wins, I got the 2. And he surprised me. That second win actually was here where I live at, and I took the fight immediately. Wow. So that started my bare knuckle journey. They accepted me. I feel like that, like I said, I feel like that was my brother being on my back and giving me that blessing and helping me further my career. You feel what I'm saying?
You know what, B? I know you hate me because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but we won't talk football.
Oh Lord. Oh man. Look. I gotta sit up on that one.
Look, my boy's been quiet. You got any questions?
Yeah, I got a zillion questions. But let me not limit to the one. So what's next for you? I mean, bare knuckle, in my mind, I'm thinking Fight Club. I'm thinking all kind of things. I know it's beyond that, but when I was sitting here listening to you, I'm like, man, this is exciting. So, I mean, what's next? Where are you going next?
Next, I'm going to be starting fight camp in a couple weeks because I've been offered a bare knuckle fight to fight in January. So I'm going to start fight camp within the next couple weeks. I was actually offered 2 other fights. One is another celebrity fight to fight another football player. And then I got offered to fight for another bare knuckle promotion, but I threw them to the side because I'm not leaving the promotion that I'm signed to. And so of course I'm always training, but once I hit fight camp, that is a different me. As Mike Tyson would say, me outside of the ring as a normal person is a cool person, but once I get into fight camp, I get mean and I get angry.
Hey, B, before we wrap up, let's talk about this celebrity fight now. And I'm gonna start with the first one. What was it like to fight Chad Ocho Johnson?
It was cool. Like, at first I wasn't going to take the fight because I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, a football player though, my favorite football player of all time too. I don't know, but then after talking after talking to my manager and talking to, the bare knuckle promotion about everything going on, and I decided to take a chance. And like I said, some things that happened to me, I feel like it's my brother having my back and being my hype man and giving me the blessing.
Right.
I took the fight, and I trained for it and came up with a specific game plan and got ready for it, man. Trust me, I was nervous from start, the second of hearing about the fight and all the stuff that led up to it,
Mhm.
and then to actually meeting him and seeing him for the first time, because throughout that whole transition of from learning about the fight and signing contracts and getting all the business taken care of, me and him had conversations. And me, him, and Floyd, I actually got to talk to Floyd Mayweather for the first time, also while doing that, and we all had conversations. And to be honest, I wanted to fanboy out then, but when meeting Chad in person, with him being my favorite football player, like I said, I wanted to fanboy out, but I knew the task that was at hand. Pardon me. So I had to do that and get back into put that shit in a box and throw it out the window with the fanboyism and stay in fight mode. And that's what happened. I stayed in fight mode and did what I had to do.
What was you
Who
nervous about?
won? Did you win?
Well, two-part question. That's coming up. But you mentioned something that was profound here. He's a football player, and you said you was nervous. Were you what was you really nervous about? Because, and then how did you approach the fight? Because had Chad Johnson had any fight experience going into the ring to begin with?
I was nervous because I wasn't expecting myself to ever, one, fight a celebrity, and two, fight my favorite football player of all time. And to answer your other question, no, Chad has never had any, fight experience. But if you followed his career like I have, I know that one, he's an all-world athlete, and two, he would train with Floyd during the off season to help with his football mechanics, because football mechanics and boxing mechanics kind of go hand, football training and boxing training kind of go hand to hand when you're a wide receiver, if you really think about it. One with the footwork and two with the hands. But he would train with Floyd during the off season to, one, stay in shape, and two, help with his football mechanics. And I knew that part about him. And plus, like I said, he's an all world athlete, an all pro, and hopefully a future Hall of Fame. Shout out to my dog Chad. But I knew that was a factor, and me being me, I'm just a professional fighter that, yes, some people know me from bare knuckle and throughout my community, but on a bigger stage, I'm like, how did I get picked for this fight? And the approach that I took at first, like I said, the first 2 weeks of finding out about this, going into fight camp, I was nervous because I didn't, until the contracts and stuff got signed, I didn't think it was going to happen. But once the contracts were signed and everything was signed, sealed, and delivered, I got in my mode. I got into real fight mode. And after that, all the radio shows, all the fame stuff and trending on all over all social media networks,
Mhm.
While training, I threw all that to the side and really got in my fight mode. And, I took it as, hey, he's another person. Forget the celebrity status.
Mhm.
He's another fighter that's standing in front of me. So we got to go in here, have a game plan, and do what we got to do and fight this man like he is me.
Yolanda asked a prudent question. You want to redo that again?
Because I don't know. I'm assuming you won. I'm just going to assume it.
Since it was an exhibition, um, they couldn't decide a winner. So it was where we were both going to win regardless, unless I truly knocked him out and he couldn't get up. That was the only thing that would make it a real serious win. But since it was an exhibition fight like the Logan Paul and Floyd fight, there was no winner really declared. But most people know who won that fight. Just
Let's get
saying.
real. Yeah. Did you really look? Did you really want to knock him out and go viral?
Um, Everything that happened in that fight was planned specifically.
Okay.
Like literally every movement, everything that happened in every round, and even the knockdown, that was all planned from start to finish. Because, you know, everybody know sports is different. You feel what I'm saying? Like I said, I could have went in there and of course knocked Chad out or beat him up in the first round. But we didn't want to do that. I'm not going to waste a big opportunity, something like that, and finish. Yeah, that would have went viral. Yes, if I would have finished him in the first round or dropping him in that last round. But I wanted to make it worth it. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
You know,
It's an opportunity.
it was a yes, one, it was an opportunity, and two, it was a fan fight. You know, we both knew why we were there, and you know that was me and my coach's whole game plan. My main striking coach, shout out to my coach Randy. This was our whole game plan the whole time, to make it a long fight, to take him into deep waters. As a fighter who has experience compared to a fighter that one never fought before, but has the boxing training and the experience, you got to everything is all about a game plan. And you know, being an athlete, whether it's from football to wrestling to baseball, you got to have a game plan every single time.
You're
You know
getting
what I'm
ready
saying?
you're getting ready to consider doing something like this again. Who is the athlete that you may consider doing this again with?
Um,
Or are you allowed to release that
no,
information?
I can throw it out there because one, he hasn't accepted the fight yet, and two, he talks a lot of trash to other football players and he wants to fight them. And you know, the promoter that's going to promote this fight, you know, he's going to end up hyping it up. And the fighter is actually a former Pittsburgh Steeler, Le'Veon Bell,
Oh yeah,
and
Le'Veon. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So
You nervous?
that's another opportunity on the table. So, you know, I'm not going to set that in stone until I got the business handled and the contract signed, sealed, and delivered.
What do you like better? Before we wrap up, we know sports is entertainment.
Hmm.
Part of your life is exactly that, entertainment. But I'm pretty sure you like the real, let me get in here and go to work. Even both of them is going to work, but this is when is it how can I put it make sense? Which one do you like better? The entertainment side of what you had to do when you're doing football players or celebrities, or do you really want to just get in there and knock a motherfucker out? Let's be real.
Man, look, I like it all, man. This is me. I love it all. I like to fight. I like the rush. I like everything that comes with it. It's the number one thing for me is, to be quite honest, is me showing my son that you can do anything in life.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? This is me, the part of fatherhood that's giving him a role model and showing him that everything is bigger than what we live around. You feel what I'm saying? And showing him different stuff. And I love all of this, man. Like, you know, sometimes I actually at this point I have a love-hate relationship with it because, you know, sometimes it's cool being out and people asking for pictures and autographs and stuff. My son, by the way, eats that up. But sometimes when, you know, I'm just trying to chill and grocery shop, it gets a little annoying, but you know, I deal with it. But you know, it's what I asked for and it's what I got, and you know, I got to deal with it. And you know, throughout this journey, I love it, but I hate it too. It's a gift and a curse.
I like that. Well, before we wrap up, I'm gonna ask these guys. You got one final question. Let's start with Joey on the end.
Okay, my final question is, you know, sounds like you've been involved with wrestling and WWE. You've had aspirations about that. Um, Boxing, bare knuckle boxing, MMA, all that. Who are some of your favorites in those different venues. For example, in my case, Muhammad Ali was my favorite boxer.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a favorite of a lot of people. But I grew up in that area where he was, in his prime.
Mm-hmm. My favorite boxer of all time is, of course, Mike Tyson. That was me growing up and seeing the maddest man on the planet. With MMA, it's going to be John Jones, and I got an A and a B for MMA. John Jones, the GOAT, and Anderson, the Spider Silva. With bare knuckle, I'm not going to call myself my favorite fighter in bare knuckle because that's a little too arrogant.
You
But my
can.
favorite fighter is, I mean, I can, but I don't want to. My favorite fighter actually is one of my good friends and one of my homies. He's actually a two division bare knuckle fighter. His name is Lorenzo Hunt. He's actually a relative of LL Cool J, and with all other combat sports, I don't really have a favorite in all combat sports, other combat sports, but the next combat sport that I actually want to try, but no, those guys are still running from me, is bare knuckle MMA. I think that is king to me. That lets me use all my weapons and all my art forms of mixed martial arts, whether it's my jujitsu, of course, my bare knuckle boxing, my wrestling, and I've done kickboxing and Muay Thai also. So that's the next thing I want to try, and also karate combat because karate was actually the first sport that I ever did in my life when I was 5 and 6 years old. But I end up, you know, not wanting to do karate no more because I was more of a, like I said, a real fighter. I didn't care if anybody wanted to fight. That's what I wanted to do. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah.
Let's ask Lee. Lee, one final
Thank you.
question.
Well, I want to ask you this question.
Thank you.
I would hope I can stay in touch with you through Andre because I've had a multimillionaire walk in my store. I was working with Anthony Sims on starting trying to promote fights here. They were trying to lock him out being a black fighter, a champion, and people didn't want to take fights with him. I'm still working with the young man, trying to work some things out. But the guy walked in my store and he has arenas, I mean, beautiful ones. And he wants to bring other things in. I know one of my good friends is the referee, Jeff, with the braids in his hair. The ref, he just did the fights the other day on TV, and I fell asleep and missed the MMA fight. I hate to say it, I fell asleep. It was just too late. But no, I would love to know if that would be some things you're interested in, also helping other, communities grow in this field because there's a lot of money to be made. But as you know, a lot of us are locked out.
My thing with that is yes, that is something I love doing. When people talk about fighter life and being all in, this is me. I'm the 100% factor of being all in. Like all the guys that I train with and train also, because I train fighters also now. And I actually have one fighter that I just started managing last year, and it's been great so far. I'm learning. Like I said before I turned pro, I learned all aspects on the business side. I learned what managers do. I learned what agents do. I learned everything, literally from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Anything that has to do with fighting, at this point, I've learned it. I'm a part of it. I want to promote. There's several promotions in my area. I like to build fighters up. Like I said, when people talk about fight life, I live it, I breathe it, I dream it. It's basically, without it, I'm nothing. Because when I retire from everything, I'm not gonna know what to do with myself because, like I said, I'm all in. Whether it was training fighters, managing fighters, training with fighters for fights, or other fighters coming into my city to train with me for fights and stuff. Like I want to promote. I want to help build a promotion. Even if it's not a promotion in my community, any outside promotions that want to link up and work with me to learn the game. I literally know, like I said, all aspects from top to bottom. I know it. I'm still learning also day by day. And I want all the smoke, like I said, like whether it's fighting, promoting, helping, all of that. That anything in the fight game, I'm a part of it.
Good. Omar, your last question for the day.
All right. So my question, you mentioned earlier about everything with your fight with Chad was kind of planned. So my question brings it kind of full circle to the beginning of the interview. What are your thoughts on the whole Tyson-Paul fight?
Oh Lord, I knew this was coming. My whole thoughts,
Thanks, Omar.
to be quite honest, my whole thoughts on that fight. It was trash. I hated to see Mike like that because if you really look at it, I feel like there was something. Of course, we all know there's always a glitch in a contract anywhere. You have to read the fine print. If their contract ever comes out, everybody will know. But I feel about that fight, you've seen it in that very first round. When Mike was about to let off on him, Mike could have ended that fight in the very first round. Whether he's 100 or if he's 60.
Right.
Mike could have ended that fight in the first round because you've seen him. And I've kind of incorporated it into my fight camp. When Mike gets to moving like this is when you know Mike is about to unleash the beast and you're going to either be hurt or not put to sleep. And I feel like there was something there in that fight that controlled Mike, besides the money, that he couldn't just let off like he really wanted to. Yes, the training camp videos and the hyping up the fight and the slap, yes, that was good. But once, I don't know, man, like, this fight had me so mad. Like, I never wanted to watch something like that happen again for a second. Because that's how pissed I was. Because, like I said, that first round, once you see Mike doing this early, it could have been over, but then something was like, it's like somebody hit the stop button on him. And it's like, stop it. No, you can't do this, Mike. And I'm still mad about that fight. You feel what I'm saying? Like, ugh.
Yolanda, your last question.
I'm good. I just say that it's amazing the things that you've done. And I'm just curious. So what's your record in the knuckle thing? And in the knuckle thing,
Are y'all
bloody in noses and all that stuff? I mean, I don't watch boxing because I'm too squeamish, but are you
Yolanda, he's too fast to knock somebody out. There's never any blood. 26 seconds, they're down. As soon as they come in the ring, they're out.
Dang.
One, I'm not a bare knuckle champion yet. I'm on my path to that. I started my path to that literally in the middle of last year to becoming ranked. My record, I'm actually 1-8 because I'm the type of fighter that I'm not turning nobody down. I like to fight. I've had my ups and downs with this because this is, bare knuckle is still new to me, and the transition has, of course, transitioning to something new, there comes up with a lot of ups and downs. And, I face my downs with this sport. But now I'm on my way up. And since I'm on my way up and I got my very first win, my very first win was in my state. My very first win was part of history in my state because it was the very first bare knuckle sanctioned fight in my state. And 3, I ended up knocking the guy out in 50 seconds, the fastest knockout and win of the night. And 4, with my progression and where I'm at this point, I'm at the point where I'm at the end of my amateur career. Guys are starting to not wanting to fight me now because, like I said, they've seen my progression and seen what I've done to actually my last 3 bare knuckle opponents. And I'm at that part of the road where it's like, I'm still here, but the guys that they want me to fight are the guys that are actually a little bit higher level guys than me, and they don't want to fight me because they know that it's game time with me now. I figured everything out. I'm in that mode of any point in time when I get in there with you now, I could either knock you out in 20 seconds, or I can knock you out in 30 seconds. The choice is yours.
Wow.
And that's where we're at with that.
Wow.
You know what? This has been a great episode. I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to share such a beautiful story of overcoming, of encouragement, and more importantly, empowerment. We started this show off with my favorite saying, you can live by the cheers or die by the booze. You have taken the cheers and elevated them, and you've taken the booze and you have definitely put them in the box and threw them out the back window. How can the viewers reach out to you and support you?
Of course, they can find me on Instagram at Brian Maxwell 12. All you basically got to do is type my name in, and use the first profile picture you see is mine. Also, on Twitter, aka X, you can find me at the official, the official Brian Maxwell. And of course, I got my fighter page on Facebook at Brian Maxwell, MMA fighter. And if y'all ever want to do any work, just DM me, and I'm down for everything. I love doing interviews, radio shows, and anything that deals with fighting. It's a big part of my life that I live in, that I love.
Leave the viewers with that beast mindset that you definitely have been carrying all.
Yes, sir.
I know also that your heart is with raising your son in a different situation than you were raised. So I commend you on that. I think that's
thank you.
Yeah.
To several of us in the room.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I mean, once you're a parent, one parent, once your child only has one parent and you got to do it yourself, it's a struggle. It's hard, but I love it. You feel what I'm saying? I've been through hardships all my life, and this having a son without another parent is a part of my journey, and we're staying strong and living it.
I would just want to say that struggle. When you get my age now, I'm 56. I love training children and kids to get to another level that it was hard for me to get to. So that's what you have. That we have a very similar background, and I'm just telling you, that's where you're going to grow to. To this day, I still coach. I still train mixed martial arts. I still train them how to box. And so these things have carried him physically and mentally ready for anything he faces, because we had to go through it. So I just want to commend you.
B, do us a favor. Leave us with that beast mindset. Leave the viewers with something that you live by every single day.
Something I live by every day. My favorite thing to say is Savage season and beast mode. And, to all the kings and queens out there, you always have to be a savage, and you always have to be in beast mode. And I know that's me coming from a fighter. That sounds different, but anything in life, you got to always be on beast mode and in savage mode. Like it's always a grind. You got to go get it. Keep your head up. All that negative stuff, I'm going to use it again. Put that shit in a box, shake it up, and throw it out the window. Got to move forward.
All right. Let's close the show out, Yolanda. Do me the honors.
This has been another episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton show.